Hello, everybody. Larry Young here again with another segment of Older Man Living Life with Purity. And as you can see, we've got Alex Fiato back in the studio. Say hello, Alex.
Nice to see you, Larry. Nice to see everybody.
Thanks for coming back in. I know it's been a long week here. We've had a lot of things happen. Most notably, over the Labor Day weekend, apparently President Donald Trump died. And but, you know, like a good man of God, he came back to life 2 days later. So he came back out there. So no one's talking about his reincarnation, you know, from coming back from the dead.
Yeah, if he came back, he's eligible.
Well, the good news is he can run for office 2 more times. So that's one thing I don't think that the mainstream media was looking forward to, is being able to have this man run for office 5 consecutive times and probably win them all. But what we wanted to talk about today is kind of revisiting a podcast we did a month or 2 back on the decline of nations, and what Archbishop John Knoll had to say about it, what intellectuals back in the last century had to say about these things. And there's 8 significant steps that lead to the decline of a nation that no nation as of yet has been able to come back from once they've hit the 8th level of this. They've never been able to reverse the course of things. It's never happened. Can we? I don't know. But we'll talk about the steps that are involved with that again, where we think we're at right now, other underlying undeniable evidence that's going on in the world around us, other writings, other movies, other discussions about these things. It's pretty undeniable as to where we're at right now. And is there a way out of this? There could be. Is it a possible outcome in our lifetime? I don't think so. I think that the die has been cast, and I don't know if there's going to be anything to reverse out of this. And like I said, what we really need is for Jesus to come back right now, because the world is not going to agree on anything. So what do you think?
Absolutely. I think that we're seeing collapse and it's been going on for some time, but now really the collapse of the Roman Catholic Church is in free fall apostasy, and especially with these last 2 popes. But the modernism has been festering for well over 150 years. And
they don't like that term modernism. They don't want to hear. They say, "Oh, we're not."
They even say that we're the modern church. I mean, they don't even.
You try saying something is modernist, and they'll reject you very quickly and try to shut you down.
Yeah, well, it's just for those of us who love our country and our culture, the pain is real. By God's grace, many fair flowers have come out of Western culture as it grew over the past millennium. Whatever its imperfections, there are many great beauty, civilization, progress emerged at the crossroads of faith and human giftedness. But now it appears we are at the end of an era. We are in a tailspin, and we don't seem to be able to pull ourselves out of greed, aversion to sacrifice, secularism, divorce, promiscuity, and destruction of the most basic of civilization, the family, destruction of the family. They does not make a healthy culture. There seems to be no basis for true reform, and a deepening darkness suggests they are moving into the last stages of a disease. So it's exactly what you...
And that was taken from an article written by Monsignor Charles Pope a number of years ago. And he was pretty much going back over the iterations of Archbishop John Knoll. Clear back in the last century, he talked about in the 1940s, right at the outbreak of World War II. John Knoll had talked about these 8 steps to decline of a nation, and he went back over civilizations, historical records, going back to the Greeks, the Romans, the French, everyone, and he was able to determine there's about a 200-year cycle of civilizations where they rise and they fall, and the reasons why they do. And every single one of them had the same underlying distinct 8 steps that have happened here. And if you would, let's go over the first one, like a birth of a nation.
Yes,
what do they talk about?
From bondage to spiritual growth, Great civilizations are formed in the crucible. The ancient Jews were in bondage for 400 years in Egypt. The Christian faith, the church, 300 years of persecution. Western Christendom emerged from the chaotic conflicts and decline of the Roman Empire and movements often fierce from barbarian tribes. American culture was formed by injustices that grew in the colonial times. Suffering and injustices caused, even forced, spiritual growth. Suffering brings wisdom and demands a spiritual discipline that seeks justice and solutions.
You know what you just kind of said? Suffering gives you time to think about what matters.
Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. One of the things we're going to be paralleling with the 8 stages of the rise and fall of civilizations is the Protestant contribution, Christian contribution to the formation of the United States. And a gentleman by the name of Kirk Cameron does an excellent job in a DVD that's called Monumental. And so he goes through the aspects of from bondage to spiritual growth. And, you know, here we are with plenty, and we don't have any growth. In fact, we're declining in that spiritual. So what is it about bondage and suffering that brings about this discipline and growth and integrity and substance?
Well, when you're hurting, you put in the time and the effort to figure out what it is that's going to stop the hurt. You know, when you're not hurting or you have pain relievers or you're deadened to these things, you don't care. And then you end up falling into the further steps. So you stopped on stage 1, which is the self-realization that I don't deserve or I don't feel this is the best way for me to live as God designed me. I need to work out of this situation. I'm going to lift myself up and I'm going to take anyone I can who's around me with me, type of thing. So I think when you're in bondage, all you can think about is being free and being able to do work that you choose to do or you see as being significant, not what the taskmaster with a whip or the other person is telling you to do, type of thing.
So we have, with the Protestant contribution in terms of the United States, dates back to the Puritans, and he describes that there was a sickness in the soul of the country that they came from, England, and they began to produce Bibles, and people began to read the Bible, and they found out that they weren't being told the full truth about what Christ was teaching because it was coming from the Church of England.
The government church who.
My understanding in this monumental is that if you were to read your own Bible, that was considered treason, and you could be punished by death. Mm-hmm. So, not only did the Catholic Church pull that shenanigan in terms of control, and Luther wanted to break away because they're selling indulgences, mm-hmm. but the Protestants perfected it as they went along.
So, he said, we can use this.
Yes. So here's people, all they want to do is to pray to God and read the Bible, but they have to move out of England. So what they do is they go to Holland, Holland is just, you can mm-hmm. do whatever you want to do, right? But they before they board onto a ship, they were caught and they were imprisoned, and then they had to revamp and they went to another ship. But they could only, there was like 120 of the Puritans that wanted to come to the New World, and so only half of them could go. So half stayed back and half went. If you mm-hmm. can imagine that small group of 120 that they said had to split. So now here they are, half is going to go, and then they get on board the ship, and then something happens, and eventually, they get to the United States. But what's going on in the Mayflower is they happen to bring a big screw, the Puritans. What happens on the Mayflower is the main beam breaks.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and somehow the good Lord, that screw, I don't know what they did. They did something to hold it together.
Really?
Oh, it's unbelievable. And they're sick and they're puking. And it took like 8 what was it, 8 weeks? They thought it was going to take like 3 or 4 weeks to get here, but it took like 8 weeks. And I mean, this is like, these are people that only want to pray to God. Here they are suffering and freezing and puking, and yet they're, they're 100%. They want to read the Bible.
Hmm.
And
They figured, what have we got to lose? We're already dead here.
That's true.
We're
That's true.
just
That's
living out a captive
right.
life.
You're right. Yeah, we're dead here. Right.
Yeah, and so for them, their spirituality was to lift them out. So they were in this state, spiritually, and it was painful enough that they would go into a great unknown,
right,
and risk that versus what they already knew. And they knew that there was no way for them to come up with a reasonable way for them to share this agreement intellectually. So they would rather divorce themselves from what they saw as being the untruth to go pursue the truth, in a safe place.
And they have
In the most probably unhospitable area.
God, I can't imagine. I can't even stay outside, with my coat on. It's freezing, let alone. So they go the second aspect of decline of 8 stages of rise and fall of a nation is from spiritual growth to great courage.
And that's when they got on the boat.
Got on the boat.
Could you imagine how big of balls it took to just
Can't imagine.
hop on one of those, what is a 90-foot ship?
Yeah, they weren't big.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. And then you went in the hall. I don't know how they kept themselves
Probably
warm.
stunk like a, infested with all sorts of stuff. Oh, my gosh. Could you imagine that?
No.
Your food starts to rot. You throw it overboard. You go, but I was going to eat that. I don't think so.
It says, having been steeled in the crucible of suffering, courage and the ability to endure great sacrifice came forth. Anointed leaders emerged, and people are summoned to courage and sacrifice, including the loss of life, in order to create a better, a more just world for succeeding generations. So they wanted to hand it on to the children, the children's children. People who have little or nothing also have little or nothing to lose, and are often more willing to live for something more important than themselves and their own pleasure. A battle has begun, a battle requiring courage, discipline, as well as other virtues. This is priceless, the guy who wrote this.
Well, that's where courage comes from, is from a determined act of resolve to get yourself out of a situation. I keep a sign in my office, courage is that reserve of strength that lets you, go into the situations everyone else runs from. And that's, I have a firefighter, standing against a wall of flame. Everyone else ran out. He's got to walk in, and that's what courage is. Somebody's got to do it.
That's right.
And this is something you choose to do. Not everyone can do that.
No.
Because they're not at that point, because they're either not hungry enough and don't have enough resolve, enough conviction, or enough confidence to do things. So they take a lax position, and they would rather be a slave than be a self-determining individual.
Amazing.
And you can be a slave to thoughts. You can be a slave to your conditions.
Sure.
All these things. You can,
right.
And a lot of people become slaves to other people's thoughts and ideas, and those are the people I consider to be stupid, because they're not using their own intellect.
Yeah. To
think things through. They're lazy, and they say, well, that's what he says, so that's what we're going to do. So everyone with me? All right, let's go get them. All right. How many times can you do that and realize you're not gaining any ground?
Well, I've said, I don't need you to screw my wife up. I got plenty that I can do to screw it up myself.
Oh, I thought you said I'm married.
Well, that's another way of putting it.
Well, I've heard it that way.
From courage to liberty, as a result of a courageous flight, the foe is vanquished, and liberty and greater justice emerges. At this point, a civilization comes forth, rooted in its own greatest ideals. Many who led the battle are still alive, and the legacy of those who are not is still fresh. Heroism and virtues that brought about liberty are still esteemed. The ideals that were struggled for during the years in the crucible still largely agreed upon. So from that courage, they have the freedom and the liberty, and from that liberty comes a chance at a new life.
Because certain people step up and take the first round of shots, the heroes.
Yeah, they said even the
Right.
dead.
And, but we do with those, when we're in this point, we remember those guys who led the fight, and we thank them, and we extol them for their work
Sure.
and for their courage to show everyone else behind them, the children, if you will, what they do. And so we talk favorably about these heroes who went forth to our children to say, if it wasn't for them, your Uncle Tom and your Aunt Harriet, had they not done what they did,
Absolutely.
we would not be here today.
Right.
And so they didn't know them, the children didn't, but they hear about them.
Right.
And they understand that there comes with it, there is a price for these luxuries or these freedoms that we have. And a lot of people, I think today, are so, numbed to their situation. They haven't had to work hard. They haven't suffered.
They're like pleasure.
Sure.
They don't want to be
Yeah, they're Veruca Salts. I want the world and I want it now.
aggravated. Yeah.
I'm not going to work for it. Give it to me.
A lot of them say that they want top money coming out of college and, the top supervisory position. They actually expect it. And so I asked one of the supervisors, a friend of mine, I said, that they really expect, he goes, yeah, she goes, I try to tell them, you got to work your way up. You got to show. He said, they won't hear of it.
Well, they think that this salary range, that the people who have been in the business for 10, 15 years are making, this, multiple six-figure salaries. They think they're going to get that right out of the box. Well, that day is over.
Right.
It never really was there. It was always a lie. It was a work of fiction being told to you by the universities to get you to come in and enroll in a 4-year program and have you waste basically 2 of the years taking classes that have really nothing to do with it, with what you're trying to do.
And they could teach things like this in school.
Well, they slip it in and yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
they could.
Right?
They don't.
They don't do it.
No, because they don't want to talk about how life and freedom and success takes work. The work part of the education is kind of left out. You can do the classes, do it our way. We'll teach you what to think. You get out there, then.
So let me ask you a question. During when Russia was overtaken by communism, there was a period of time where they called in collective farms. Mm-hmm. In other words, they wanted to take those individual peasants that were, and they were producing pretty good.
Sure.
But then they took that away from the peasant and wanted collective farms, and they even displaced a lot of those families. Some of them they killed, some they sent to. Why would you do that? I mean, wouldn't you want food to be available to a rising nation? I mean,
well, somebody thought they had a better idea how to do things.
they said it was disastrous.
Well, it'd be like what they're going to try to do in New York City here if they elect this Mamdani in there. He wants to have government-run grocery stores. Well, I got news for you. Okay, if you want something that's pseudo-government run and you want to see a success or a collapse, U.S. Post Office.
Right, right.
How is that going?
I just got I got a little package delivered to me that didn't have hardly any weight at all to it because it was herbs and stuff. And it was but no,
herbs and stuff. You hanging out with your kid again?
Parsley.
Yeah,
let me correct this.
That's what they say.
Yeah, $30. $30. It doesn't weigh anything.
Is that what the sellers charged you, or what the post office?
No, it was a friend of mine that sent. My cousin sent me in the garden.
Yeah, it's always a friend or a relative.
But the idea is he talks about the post office, $29 to send some lightweight.
Well, I mean, whatever the fee is and the speed, there's a category for that. But I got to tell you, if I had, I get a lot of stuff delivered to me here because I'm in the country, and it's an hour drive just to go into a regular store someplace.
Right, right.
And so I have a lot of things delivered. I got to tell you, there's some things that are taking as many as 2-3 weeks to get here from like Chicago.
2-3 weeks.
Yeah, I'm like a 3.5 hour drive from downtown Chicago. But it's taking something, but I'm tracking it. It's going to Indianapolis, okay, and then it goes to Detroit, and then it hovers around there for 3-4 days, and then it gets sent back to Indianapolis, and then it went back to Chicago, then it went back to Indianapolis, and finally got to me.
That's crazy.
In the meantime, I drove in the hour into Fort Wayne, picked up what I needed, came back, had it installed, and then I couldn't return the other item until it finally got delivered.
Is that because you're in the country as opposed to being in Fort Wayne, so to speak?
It takes a while to get here?
Yeah, why does it take
No, it's because the post office is fucked up.
Oh, this is United States Post Office taking
Yeah.
this guy. Oh, yeah, they're in trouble.
Yeah.
I thought Trump was thinking about clipping it.
Well, it should be probably privatized because what they're doing right now isn't working. But, it's labor intensive, and AI and all these things are going to be changing all this stuff. They're going to be getting rid of basic mail situations. The end of this month, this is September 2025, beginning October 1st, there will no longer be Social Security checks going out. No more paper checks. Too much fraud, too much. It's all going to be just direct deposit into your accounts. So that's a change that's happening here, and I think that's probably pretty good. It'll either go into your card that you have, your debit card, or it'll go into your bank account. But no more paper checks for Social Security.
Was the paper that was a problem?
Well, yeah, people would steal them, cash them, or people were still getting paper checks that have been dead for years, And so now they think with this other layer of having to have the direct deposit type of thing, they're going to have to
limit it.
Someone's going to have to come up with an actual identification and use the banks to try to make sure this is an actual living person.
They police it.
Well, it's going to upset a lot of people who've been living well off of dead family members for quite some time. But these are people that are on the dole anyway, so they all need to probably be gotten back to work. But I don't know what work there's going to be for a lot of people. AI is going to be displacing more and more people out of the regular service industries, no longer needed for a lot of these people to do these things. It's going to be an incredible change.
And robotics, too, in terms of robotics.
Oh, it all goes
being
together, yeah. Robotics, AI. A lot of people who are even like paralegals in a legal office, a lawyer, the staff isn't going to need all these paralegals to do these things. They can just have the computer AI generate it out, and then they go back through and double check it and perfect
you're
it.
right.
Just like they have to do with a paralegal.
You're right. If they can extract that information that quickly.
Yeah, you won't need lawyers. You know what we should do is get rid of judges. Have them be AI.
So it would be more just then, wouldn't it?
But it would be factual.
As opposed to political.
It is emotional and politically driven, yeah. That would be a pretty...
So if it's used properly, it can serve...
AI can do great things. It can also do very bad things.
Right.
There's a situation we talked about before starting the cameras here today. Was talking about allegedly somebody throwing stuff out of a White House window, an upstairs window, that took over the internet too. And Trump said, that's practically impossible. Those windows weigh 600 pounds and they're sealed shut. I mean, who would, everything's got to be bulletproof because somebody could take a shot from 2 miles away
right.
through an upstairs bedroom window.
Sure, you got to have,
try to take you out.
Easy, right?
Yeah. And, who's going to not take those alarms? He said that even his wife, Melania, wanted to get some fresh air. She said it'd be nice if we could open a window. He goes, that ain't going to happen. But could you imagine if he had upstairs windows at the White House opened and closed?
Oh, yeah, it'd be a turkey hunt.
No, it'd be
chaos.
Yeah, it'd be a Jamie Foxx movie or something like that.
That'd be funny,
some sort of White House Down type of thing. So I don't think that was happening, but I think that was an incidence of AI had done that. It was computer generated. They made it up and then threw it out there, and everybody fell over their feet trying to get, oh, look at this. They're throwing, stuff out of the White House window, like if they were, why would they be throwing it out the front window? It's like the whole world sees it. Probably one of the most photographed buildings in the world.
Yeah.